Welcome to lecture number 30. So, in this lecture we will be focusing towards managing competitiveness. So, today what has happened is, when you try to develop a product, you should be very careful. We should look at who are all going to be our competitors around, who is going to be our customer, and what is the next step a competitor will take. So, if he takes this step, how am I going to tackle? So, all these things have to be considered, and then what we do is we try to develop a product. So, here in this lecture we will see some of the concepts of managing competitiveness. So, here the content of this lecture is going to be benchmarking. So, benchmarking is pretty interesting. So, it is like, how do I evaluate myself? So, I have to evaluate myself with respect to a standard. See, I might say I am a great teacher, I am a wonderful product, or I have developed a wonderful product, but when I compare it with the standard, then I know where am I. Am I ahead of the standard or less than the standard? If I am less than the standard, so I have to improve. So, what is that? That is called as benchmarking. So, the next one is outsourcing. Today the world is moving towards the concept of outsourcing. So, what people say is, rather than manufacturing inside your factory, let us try to outsource the manufacturing outside and let us start doing assembly. In fact, the certain companies have gone one step ahead, and then they say, from the raw material to final finished product to packaging, everything is done outsourcing. They put a quality manager there who assess the quality of the product coming out, and then the company just puts its stamp and sells it out. So, outsourcing is one thing which is coming up in a big manner, because outsourcing will try to reduce the cost on the company. Then mass customization is a very interesting concept which we are talking today. So, mass customization will try to help in selling products. Today, when you try to buy a car, or when you try to buy a pen, or when you try to buy a shirt, we always look for customizing that shirt for yourself. So, you might be fat, you might be thin. So, many a times what happens, when you even buy a shoe, your shoe size will be 6.5. So, you will have a 6 size shoe, or you will have a 7 size shoe. Your foot is in between these two guys. So, either you buy a large shoe or you buy a smaller shoe. When you buy a smaller shoe, it is going to hamper your body profile. When you buy a loose shoe, it is going to slip, it can't allow you to run. So, if you see, many of the things are not customized, but still we are happy with it. So, but now people have become little more aware, and people talk about customization. When we talk about benchmarking, benchmarking is the way to go backstage and watch another company's performance from the wings, where all stage tricks and hurried realignments are visible. So, what is our performance level? How do we do it? What are the other performance level, others performance level? How do they get their things done? So, first you try to understand where are you, then you try to understand where the others are, what are they doing. Then what you do is, we try to creatively adapt, and then what you do is, we look forward for breakthrough performance. So, in a class, I always try to rank myself with respect to the topper. So, then I know what is my capability in the class. When I try to talk about a product like a computer, the best computer is X, I will see I have developed a computer. If that fellow can solve so much of problems in a fraction of a second, how much can I do? So, that is how you try to rate yourself, and then you try to go back to your design desk, sit down and start correcting the design or the performance, whatever it is, and then come back, compete with him, put some creativity, and then what you come out is a breakthrough performance. So, benchmarking is the way to go backstage and watch another company's performance from their wings, where all stage tricks and hurried realignments are visible. there are different type of benchmarking. One is called as internal benchmarking, the other one is called as external benchmarking. So, internal is you try to do within yourself, within your factory you try to do is internal benchmarking. External benchmarking is you try to compare yourself with respect to the other company or competitors. In fact, if you go back and remember your quality function deployment, we had an exclusive matrix wherein which we say what are the technical requirements, what are the competitors giving solution to the requirements. So, these are external requirements. Further distill as process benchmarking, performance benchmarking and strategic benchmarking. These are the three different types of benchmarkings which every company does to make their product successful. What is process benchmarking? Process benchmarking demonstrates of how top performing companies accomplish a specific process. If somebody can do a job within 2 minutes and if I take 10 minutes, it is always good for me to go and understand how did that person do the job within 2 minutes. Or if so, once maybe I have wasted certain things or I did not have lot of data to accomplish the process. So, then what I do, I come back, standardize a procedure, then ask the input which has come to the process in a standardized fashion, and I also might improve my efficiency in getting the same job done in 2 minutes. So, that is what it is, demonstration of how top performing companies understand them stage by stage, do a micro event analysis. So, understand every stage. If somebody does move his left hand from 10 centimeter to 2 centimeter, he moves at an angle of 8 degrees. So, please note down that, and then when you come back and sit down, you will see yes, that makes a sense. Or if a fixture is to be established, please establish a fixture so that you can improve your efficiency. Such benchmarking is gathering via research, survey, interview and site visits. By identifying how others perform the same functional task or objective, people gain insight and idea they may not otherwise achieve. For example, if you want to start a hotel business, you just have to go to another hotel in the nearby village or in the nearby town, understand his business model, understand his kitchen, understand the skill level of the cooks, chefs, whatever are there, and then you come back and start doing it in your hotel, you will see a success. So, that is what is process benchmarking. Such information affirms and supports decision making by executives. The next one is performance metrics or performance benchmarking. So, the performance metrics gives number standard against which a client own processes are compared. So, these matrices are usually determined via a detailed and a careful analysis survey or the interview. So, you try to put a value to you and then you say how much percentage are you up or down. Clients can then identify performance gaps, prioritize action items and then conduct follow-on studies to determine the methods of improvement. So, I know my competitor is here, I am here, my competitor is A, this is myself. I try to understand what all he does in respect to process, and then I also try to understand with respect to performance. And then what do I do is I take back, try to implement in my system and then start doing it. Recently what we did was we were any paper which was moving inside my institute used to take 6 to 8 working days for me to get back the document whatever I submit for signing in the administration. So, the institute saw every paper is taking 6 days and 8 days. They had a statistical data. Then what they did was they reorganized the complete structure. They made a process map and then they also saw the flow of the paper to several desks. Then they understood how much time does it spend in each desk, and today what has happened is we have come to the level of complete automation. So, we start and then we get the signed paper from the administration in the evening itself. So, within 8 hours now we are able to get our document back signed or a response on the letter. So, what has happened is we went to other institutes, we went to several corporate worlds, understood how do they do, then had several rounds of brainstorming session, we have to figure out, is a digital signature good enough, is a physical signature required, what verification happens, what data he needs, and then finally we came out with this improvised system. So what we did was we did benchmarking. So performance metrics is also something like that. So performance matrix gives numerical standards against which the client's own process can be compared. So for example, if that is 100, we try to get 60, so now we try to improve. The next one is strategic benchmarking. Identification of the fundamental lessons and winning strategies that have enabled high performance companies to be successful in their marketplace. So understanding strategies. Many a times what happens when you conduct a meeting also, the meeting will have got several agendas, like maybe 10 agendas, 20 agendas. So people, what generally they do, there are two types of strategies. One strategy is people take up the toughest agenda and start discussing, and then they say if we spend more time, rest of the decisions can be taken very fast. So that is one strategy to do. The other strategy is put all the easy things in the first go, and last we take up a long strategic or a tough decision to be taken agenda, and then we let us deliberate. So both strategies are there. So many companies follow the first strategy, some companies follow the second strategy. So you as a competitor has to look at which strategy to be used for your company or your product development, and then choose it. The strategic benchmarking examines how company compete and is ideal for corporations with a long term perspective. So strategy is one such thing. Strategy is, many people when they start introducing a product into the market, they try to give the first full year in a very low price, maybe in a throwaway price. Once they capture the market, then they slowly start increasing the cost of the commodity. So that is one strategy. The other strategy is, people say that okay, you produce in bulk, flood the market with your product, and then when you do that, so you reduce, since you have produced in bulk, you go at a very economical price and hit at the market, then you also get popularized. So that is a strategy. So strategic benchmarking examines how company compete and is ideal for corporation with the long term perspectives. So what are the essence for benchmarking? The essence of benchmarking is continuous improvement. No product is developed ideal. So what happens is, every product you develop, there has to be a scope for improvement, and there is a scope for improvement. Okay. So continuous improvement process is the bottom line. Change is one thing which is very common, which happens, and continuous improvement in product has to be done so that you can sustain in the market. So the essence of benchmarking is a continuous process for comparing a company. So a strategy, a product, a process has to be compared at regular intervals, and try to reset the button, fine tune your process, and look forward for a better product with those the world leaders and the best in the class organizations. Main purpose is to learn how they achieved excellence and set out to match and even surpass them. So you should not say okay, he is doing fine, so I should do like him. No, you have to now start working on trying to beat him and go ahead of him. See, if he is here and you are here, you try to move to this position and stand here, then you are only just in the same way where your competitor is. So what you are supposed to do when you do benchmarking, you do with your competitor, and then your level should be higher than what your competitor is. So that is what we are saying. Main purpose is to learn how they achieved excellence, and then setting out to match and even surpass it and go to a higher standard. So that is why the benchmarking is done. The justification lies partly in the question, why reinvent the wheel if I can learn from someone who has already done it? So many a times when we do experiments, we always tell it, why do you reinvent the wheel? If somebody comes and says the surface is hot, so why do you go touch it and feel and reiterate and say yes, it is hot? So if it is hot, what strategic measures he has taken, please you also do it, or do something much better than them so that you protect yourself from the heat. However, benchmarking is not a panacea that can replace all other quality efforts or management processes. So benchmarking is one of the process in product development So it cannot replace all the quality efforts or the management processes which you are doing. So when you look at the processes of benchmarking, so organization that benchmark adapts the process to best fit their own needs and culture. Number of steps in the process may vary from organization to organization. The following are the 6 steps which contains the core technique. First, what to benchmark, understand the current performance, plan, study others, learn from data, use findings. So first, what is to be benchmarked, you have to know. For example, if you are making a wonderful shirt, in the shirt, if button is the only person who fails frequently, because of that your product is not sold properly, then you start looking at companies which produces the button best, or companies which produces shirt where the buttons don't fail at all. So you first see what is to be benchmarked, then you try to understand your current performance. So 1 in every 10 buttons break, or my button shatters when we put in washing machine. So you understand your current performance, then you plan what is to be done. Then look at the others who are around you and study what have they done. Maybe the button is okay, the stitching is not okay in your case, others do a proper stitching maybe. So please look into it, then learn from the data. So you have learned from others, you make an observation sheet, write down all the sheets, and then what have you done is you have generated data. Now from the data you convert it into an information and then a knowledge, and then you write out what is your findings, and once you know your findings, start implementing in your product such that you can succeed. So these are the 6 steps containing core techniques for benchmarking. There are 3 levels in benchmarking. One is internal benchmarking, competitive benchmarking, and benchmarking outside the industries. So within an industry, I told you internal benchmarking is within an industry, within an organization, within a classroom, right. So internal benchmarking, so you consider the next person who uses whatever it is your customer. Okay. Next is competitive or strategic business, look at industries and competitors, and when you benchmark outside the industry, you can also do benchmarking with others. So what are the benefits? So there will be a cultural change in your organization, there will be performance enhancement in your organization, so there will be human resource development in your organization. So these are the 3 big benefits of benchmarking. So benchmarking allows organization to set realistic, rigorous, new performance target, and this process helps in convince people of the credibility of these targets. So here benchmarking allows the organization to set realistic data, realistic target, rigorous and new performance targets. So the company culture has to be changed. Chalta hai culture has been changed into today India is moving towards professionalism. So this happened because of lot of technology got intervened in our day to day life. So today digital technology has become part and parcel of our life. Let it be economics, let it be booking tickets, let it be transferring of data, transferring of information, everything has become digital. There is a cultural change which has happened. Performance improvement, benchmarking allows the organization to define a specific gap in performance and to select the process to improvement. So these gaps provide objectives and action plans for improvement at all levels of organization and promote improved performance for individuals and group participation. So the performance improvement is provides the objective and the action plan for improvement at all levels of your organization. It does not happen only in the top level or in the bottom level, at all levels, and you promote improved performance for individuals as well as group participants. So what happens is, generally, suppose you are making a product A, okay. So you take 20 minutes in producing this product. So naturally in an hour you produce 3, and then in 8 hours approximately you will produce 24. So putting all these fatigue allowance, then lunch break allowance and other things, you might be set a target of please produce 20 parts in a shift. Suppose in case you produce 28 parts. Now what has happened? You are supposed to produce 20, because of your skill, because of your capabilities, you are producing 28 parts instead of 20. So, you have produced 8 parts more. So, now there has to be an incentive given to you saying that you have produced 8. So, that is what we are talking about here. So, instead of 20 you produce 28. So, you have produced 8 more. So, we have to say that okay, your performance is high. So, you will get an incentive of more salary. In the same way, if there is a product B has to be produced by 3 people, 4 people, product B. So, then what happens? So, again let us assume it takes 20 minutes and now you have to produce 20 parts in a shift. So, you have produced 28 from the group. So, now you see here that 8 parts are produced more, and now you see because of this group participation you have produced 8 more. So, you have shown an enhancement in your performance. You would have reiterated, changed the tool, put a fixture, done or material handling you have enhanced, something like that. So, you have, and so now you have to be given that the incentive. So, that is what we are trying to say, for improvement at all levels of the organization and perform and promote improved performance for individuals as well as group participants is the big benefit of benchmarking. The next one is human resource. So, human resources, the existing people will be sent for training. The employer begins to see a gap between what they are doing and what best in the class is doing. For example, earlier many of the bank accounting was done manually. Today everything has become digital. So, now when they go for a training program, they look at to see the advantages whatever it is because of this digital. So, then they are being taught, they have now improved. So, when you do this benchmarking only you can do that. Closing the gap point out, the need of the personnel to be trained to learn techniques of problem solving and process improvement happens because of human resource in benchmarking. The next discussion is going to be on outsourcing. In business, outsourcing is an agreement in which one company contracts out a part of their existing internal activities to the other company. For example, you can have a part-time CA, you can have a part-time machinist, you can have a part-time teacher, you can have a part-time librarian. So, I cannot manage it. So, what I have done is I have given my job to another person or to a group of person. I can also outsource my mess, I can outsource my canteen. So, here basically I cannot run the business. So, I have given it to somebody who can run it on my behalf. Okay. So, it is internal activity to it. It involves the contract out of a business process, example payroll processing, claim processing, operational and non-core functionals like manufacturing, facility management, call center support to other parties. So, outsourcing is another thing because it works out to be economical. Different outsourcing categories, most freelancer or outsourcing provider will fall into one of the following categories in regard to the service that they are provided to the clients. So, some will even offer several inbound customer service, outbound telemarketing, web design and development, SEO and online marketing, back office or administrative support, virtual assistant service, accounting and HR management, marketing and sales support. So, these are some of the things which happens in an industry, and we are now trying to look out for outsourcing. Why is this all talked about in product development courses? Because I told you there are 7 steps in product development. So, the first 3 steps are more focused towards designing. So, customer voice, and then you try to work on engineering solutions, that conceptual thing you choose the best one and then you try to work on engineering solutions. Afterwards, the next 4 is more towards manufacturing. So, manufacturing we talk about process, layout, then it will be sales and marketing, and the last step is going to be how do I recycle. So, if you look at it, outsourcing comes in these 2. Why? Because finally when I sum up all these things, this becomes as cost to product or cost to customer. So all these strategies of outsourcing also plays a very important role. Today what is happening is companies have a strategy that they just call 2 hours before the product is to be delivered, they call us this sub-assembly fellow, he delivers it to the spot, they do an assembly of the entire product and then they give it to the customer. So different outsourcing categories, one is simply put, outsourcing will give away some of your business tasks that can easily be managed by an independent entity, making life easier for a business owner most of the time, as well as being able to pass on these tasks to someone more experienced than yourself. So that is also outsourcing. For example, I used to outsource my kitchen to my wife, so she does wonderful cooking. So she is more experienced than me, that is why it is, and she does it in a much faster time, quicker time and in a tastier manner. So you will also save money against hiring someone locally to do the same job. So when you look at outsourcing, you see a workflow, your outsourcing option will be in-house, then you will go to infrastructure outsourcing, reduce the number of internal technology infrastructure, then full outsourcing, reduce efforts and resources. From in-house you can go for full outsourcing, from in-house you can go for infrastructural outsourcing. Then you can also do operational outsourcing, expand office without hiring additional staff. So you can also do this. So you have several outsourcing options which are there today, and this is how a workflow happens in the outsourcing model. The 3 outsourcing myth. Outsourcing technology is expensive is a myth. Going to third party will mean lower quality, it is again a myth. If my data is offsite, I will lose control over it is also a myth. So these are 3 myths which you should kill, because you can make it more legally, and you can legally accountable for these outsourcing companies. Today there are wonderful legal teams and legal documents which tries to put everything black and white. So it is not expensive, it is not low quality, and it is also not lose control over the data. So these 3 are myths. The last point of discussion is going to be mass customization. Mass customization is, I would like to customize my product to my expectation. For example, I buy a pen for 10 rupees in a market. So the pen whatever I buy, maybe my neighbor also comes and buys the same pen at 10 rupees from the market. So we both are sitting besides each other in a classroom. So I keep my pen on my desk and he also keeps. Now we don't know whose pen is what. So then the immediate thing what we get out of it is we try to engrave our names on the pen. So what have you done? You have customized the pen to your requirement. Okay. So mass customization is a process of delivering wide market goods and services that are modified to satisfy a specific customer need. Mass customization is a marketing and a manufacturing technique that combines the flexibility and personalization of a custom made product with the low unit cost associated with the mass production. So mass production means low cost. Now you do mass customization for low cost. Okay. I try to buy a cloth and stitch my shirt, customized shirt for yourself. Okay. Mass customization products may also be referred to as made to order or built to order. For example, when you try to go to an architect and tell your idea that I want my house to be like this, that is mass customization. So here it can be made to order or built to order. So you try to tell the architect that this is how my building, so it is built to order. Make to order is you go to a carpenter and say, please make the furniture according to my taste. Okay. So there are several approaches to mass customization. There are 4 basic approaches to mass customization depending on customization of the product itself or its representation. So you have no change, change. So product, okay. You have no change, change, representation, transparent customization, collaborative customization, cosmetic customization and adaptive customization. So when there is no change in the product, and if you want to do customization, that is called as adaptive customization. So transparent customization, collaborative customization and cosmetic customization. Cosmetic is superficial customization. So what is collaborative customization? The collaborative customization customizer talks to the client to help them recognize what they need, to recognize factors that will fulfill those needs and to create customized product following those guidelines. Where is collaborative? Collaborative is here, extreme end. So, collaborative customizer talks to the client to help them recognize what they need. Many a times we don't know what to ask. So, that is what they need, to recognize factors that will fulfill those needs and create customized product following those guidelines is collaborative customization. What is adaptive customization? Where is adaptive customization? Adaptive customization is here. So, where there is no change, product. Businesses that follow the approach of adaptive customization offer one standard product to the customer along with a few customization options. So, what it does is it gives you a standard. For example, I go to the market and buy a mixie, kitchen mixie. So, he gives you a machine which is standard, and then he gives you 3 or 4 different types of jars wherein which it can customize to your need. Each jar is like 1.5 liters, 1 liter, 0.3 liters and maybe a juicer. So, he gives 4 jars. So, these are the options to customize to your requirement. This approach makes sure that the product is designed in a manner that it can be customized by the end client with absolute ease. Okay, this is adaptive customization. We have seen collaborative. Collaborative is they come and tell you what you want and how do you fulfill your wants by the requirements, and then they will try to give you try to suggest a company that this is how a product has to be done, guidelines. Adaptive is only to have one standard and give attachments so that they can be happy. So, you can see mass customization before, and today it is one way customers. So, it is mass customization is mass production. So, today what has happened, after mass customization you have customers and it is an interactive dialogue between the customer and the factory. So, earlier it was mass production. So, company produces, they will just dump it to the customer will buy. Today what has happened, after mass customization, the company starts interacting with the customer and then they try to do. So, this is what is a difference between mass customization and mass production. Next, going to cosmetic. Cosmetic customization advertise a standard product differently to different groups of clients. This approach works well when clients use the same product but want them to be presented differently. For example, you are trying to sell a scooter. So, you try to look at age group of 15 to 25, then 25 to 35, 35 to 45, and then you try to put for male separately, female separately. Then what you do is you try to make the advertisements in such a manner such that it caters to exactly to their needs. So, that is what is talked about, advertise a standard product differently to different groups of people. When the same model is shown to a college going kid, so they say it has a sleek color for a female, and for a male what they say it has a power. Okay. So, and then when they show at a age group of 50 male, so they say it is safer. Women, they say you can wear a sari and drive the scooter. So, a same product has been advertised differently such that it tries to talk about customization. This approach works very well when the clients use the same product but want them to be presented differently. So, transparent. So, where is this coming? Customization. So, this customization comes here, where there is representation change but the product does not change. And the last one is going to be the transparent customization. Transparent customization deals with providing customized product to individual clients without telling them that the product are exclusively produced for them. So, this approach is there is a change in the product, the representation is not changed. So, here what does it mean is you are trying to produce a product for a customer, but without telling the customer that we have produced it, and then just give it to him to enjoy the product, and then you see the customization. So, transparent customization deals with providing customized product to individual clients without telling them that the products are exclusively produced for you. Moment you start using the product, you feel so happy that it is done for you. This approach works in the case where the customer does not want to repeat what he, she is needs instantly, or when the client needs are predictable or obvious. So, only here it can be used. Mass customization is the talk of the town. When you make a product today, please keep in mind you do mass customize the product to your requirement. So, that means to say your product should have standards and there should be small add-ons such that it tries to meet the requirement of the customer, and you can do mass customization. So, advantage and disadvantages. So, the mass customization, the customer participation is more, the customer are more pleased, strongly relation between the company and the customer, elimination of scrap quantities are happening in a big way. Disadvantage, it requires a very high flexibility in the production technology. It is easy to say, but your machine whatever you are doing has to have very much flexibility. The difficulty in achieving the efficiency, the requirements of strong direct to customer logic system, then it is high warehouse cost. All these things are there, because if you do not get a customer, you have to put it in a warehouse and wait for the customer to come. So, with this I come to an end to this lecture and to this course. Thank you very much for joining this course. I am sure by going through this course material, you will now try to have a holistic view about product development and manufacturing. So, you will see how to develop a product, how to manufacture a product such that you keep your customer happy. Thank you.